If you own a home in Illinois or Indiana, somebody obviously has knocked on your door trying to sell you solar panels.
Eco energy. Let's go, go. Plug in eco energy. Eco, eco. Go that eco energy. You know.
The pitch sounds great. Save money, help the environment, zero down. Today, we're going to tell you everything that they didn't.
Which is quite a bit.
We don't install solar, so we want to be very clear about that up front. We install electrical work that makes the solar function. And we oftentimes work alongside or next to or have seen a lot of solar installations and what they do. We've seen it from the inside, and that's what this episode is all about.
Yeah. The U.S. residential solar industry grew from roughly $10 billion to roughly $30 billion.
And that was just in a few years.
Right. That was between 2019 and 2023. Yeah. Such a massive growth in
huge.
4 years.
And you saw them going up everywhere.
Yeah.
Like every single house. Boom, boom, boom. Right down they just went right down the block.
Especially like in a block that was good for solar. It literally almost everybody.
Yeah.
In like a week, they were all up.
That's why
Insane.
the growth. Explosive growth.
Right. Yeah.
That's some of the reason why it grew.
Right. And
we're going to hear about some of the other reasons out. So there's kind of three structures when you're interested in solar. I know people have done all three. Yeah. So let's talk about those three types and some pros and cons.
Yeah. So the first type is a cash purchase.
Right.
You buy the solar outright.
Correct.
This is more of a traditional mindset, right? Where you buy it in cash, you own it. Nobody can come after it later.
Those people who use their HELOC loans or they use cash savings in the bank.
Yep.
In fact, I remember having this conversation with a friend of mine saying, hey, it's going to be $65,000 for our install, but what we make up over the course of time, that their expected lifespan was about 10 years at the time, that they were going to make that money back plus what they would have made in the bank.
Right.
So that's not a bad investment.
No.
Right? But there's two other ways of doing this that aren't so great.
Right. And there are ups and downs with all of it. The second way is essentially a loan, right? You borrow to buy the system.
Which is probably, I would say that's probably the most common way.
Yep.
And then the second, okay, let's finish that most common way. Yeah.
Yeah, so the solar loan, by far most common. This is what probably 7 or 8 out of 10 people actually have on their system. Would you agree?
Most of those solar companies were pushing that option.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that why later.
Right. But you're essentially paying a monthly loan, right? And the way that this was sold to a lot of people is, hey, your current electric bill is $180 a month, right? Your loan bill is $120 a month. That's effectively a $60 a month savings throughout the entire course of the loan. And honestly, fair enough. Yeah. If that makes sense, then that makes sense.
What's that, $720 a year or something like that? Just right off the top.
Right, yeah. The third, and I would say probably least common or maybe tied with the cash option.
I want to say it's more common in commercial than residential, but go ahead.
Yeah. So that would be the PPA, or a solar lease.
Correct.
And that's where you are leasing the solar panels from the solar company. And this is where it gets pretty sticky.
Actually, I think it's the solar company leasing your roof.
Right.
So they own the solar panels. They own technically the roof.
Yeah.
And you buy electricity from them.
Right.
That's the third way.
Yeah.
And what's the hang up with that?
The hang up with that, I mean, honestly, it's the fact that, well, one, they own your roof.
Yeah.
Just like...
they make it sound real good. We'll take care of everything. If something breaks, we'll take it. No leaks, no nothing. All guaranteed.
Yeah.
In a writing, in a piece of paper that ends up in court.
Yep.
As we found out so many different ways. But the hidden part about that one is typically rate escalations.
Yeah.
So they start off, pretty competitive, and by year 25, you've doubled the amount that you're paying
Yeah.
for your, lease back or buying electricity from them.
Yeah. Typically it's 2 to 3% a year that's just built into the contract.
Right.
And they won't draw any attention to that when they're selling you on it.
Nope. So speaking of not drawing attention to stuff, what is the most common bait and switch you see in the solar industry?
The most common one would probably be the monthly payment comparison.
Okay.
Right? They'll tell you it's $120 a month for solar versus your $180 electric bill.
Yeah.
It sounds like a $60 a month savings.
Correct.
But the $120 is on a 25-year loan, and it may have a rate escalator clause.
They almost all do.
Where
Yeah.
you're paying more every single year.
Correct.
For that solar.
In my contention or my hang up with solar from the time, we've gotten approached, I don't know how many times about,
God.
will you guys install solar? Will you sell solar?
Yeah.
And what it boiled down to is they wanted us to sell financing.
Yeah.
They didn't want us to sell solar.
Right.
Like, we're electricians. We want to pull wire,
Yeah.
we want to build things. We're not really into selling financing. We have financing options for
Right.
people who are interested in upgrading things, but they're typically smart financing options,
Yeah.
low out of pocket. And then go ahead.
I would say the biggest difference there is the solar companies, like almost all of their margin was in the financing, right? We do it the complete opposite way, where like we're not making any more money on financing.
Right.
It doesn't matter to us whether you finance the job,
Yep.
whether you pay cash, whatever.
Yeah,
but
same money out of pocket.
Right.
Yeah.
It was a completely different sales pitch on the financing
The
side.
other thing I've seen issues with is their solar projection. Their projection for what they can get out of those solar panels is often optimistic, shall
Yeah.
we say?
Yeah.
And the actual amount that you get out of the solar panel, especially in Illinois, this isn't Arizona.
Right.
We service Illinois and Indiana. This is not Arizona. It's not the Sunshine State.
Yeah.
This is an area where you have a significant amount of cloud cover.
The
And
Windy
that-
City.
Yeah, the Windy City. And that actually reduces production out of your panels.
Yeah.
So when they're selling you this stuff, oftentimes it's best case scenario. You
Yeah.
don't end up with best case. You end up with somewhere middle of the road, production out of your panels.
Yep.
And that really kind of erodes your savings per month.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it comes down to a pretty close, like what you were spending to what you are now spending.
Right.
But now you got these hideous looking things on your roof. Okay.
So from the electrical side, is there a deal structure that creates more installation problems than others?
Well, I think the PPAs are probably the most problematic.
Yeah.
The solar companies are going in and they are going to try and spend the least amount of money possible to put equipment up on your roof.
Yeah.
A lot of this also comes into who's installing it as well.
Oh, yeah.
And we've seen a lot of out-of-state installers that aren't licensed. Couldn't even pass the first page of an electrical exam, yet they're up there putting something, solar panels up there. Terminations aren't correct, and that's really, really, really tough. I think your cash buyers, people who are really interested and do the research on it,
Yeah.
they weren't pitched by a door-to-door sales guy. They're like,
Right.
hey, let me look and see if this realistically makes sense to do. Dig into the actual numbers, dig into which manufacturers they want to go with,
Yeah.
figure out a good quality product, a good quality system. And this is where we're seeing, we're gonna get into like the fallout of the big solar companies.
Yeah.
But this is where your local solar installers really shine. They're local to your community. They're married to that project. They know that their reputation is very much tied to every project they do. And that is critical.
I was talking to a guy maybe 6 months back where he was telling me he's been in the solar business for 30 years. And my response to that was, holy cow, there's been a solar business for 30 years. I thought that was like 2015 was about when it came out,
Yeah.
but I was dead wrong on that. But he was telling me about how hard it's been to compete with these national chains that
Sure.
are, I don't want to say dishonestly, but they're
High pressure sales tactics for
right.
sure.
Yeah.
And then there's over 3,000 lawsuits against these guys, so there was a lot of deception involved. I don't think
Right.
you're not stepping out on a limb there.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. These deceptive sales tactics
Yeah.
can be very difficult to compete with as a local business that's trying to do their best to set people up for that
Yeah.
25 year lifespan that they're being sold on
Sure.
these projects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we see that has been probably the majority of the problem is the national companies that come in and try and roll up neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And they ultimately they're not in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
That was a really a very much so a get rich quick scheme
Yeah.
for savvy salespeople who could sell anything to anybody.
Yeah.
And they would go through, and it makes on paper it makes financial sense for people to do, so they
Right.
sign up for it.
Yeah.
And that salesperson is not married to that job, not married to that project,
Yeah.
and all they got their commission and they're out.
Yeah.
That happens, unfortunately, more times than not. So let's talk about the seller or the financing shell game that went on.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like we said, there are 3 different paths you can go down.
Right.
One of which is a cash purchase.
Right.
And for this example, we'll use a $22,000 system cost,
Okay.
right? Just as our baseline.
Probably a industry standard.
Yeah.
Close to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are higher, there are lower, but I
Right.
think that's a good
a good starting
baseline
point,
number.
yeah.
Sure. So, on a cash purchase, don't get the 30C credit anymore, but for a long
No.
time you did.
Right, and that was 30%.
Right,
On
yeah.
a federal tax rebate.
Yeah.
That was really, really nice.
Right,
That
so-
knocked what, 6,000 off of that?
Yeah, just over 6,000
Yeah.
could have been knocked off of that
Yeah.
that job right there. But there are still a couple of programs that can help with that on the cash
I know
purchase.
Illinois has one. I don't
Yeah.
think Indiana does.
Illinois Shines program
Right.
is pretty robust
Yeah.
and works really well. But that could reduce the system cost by 4,000 to 9,000.
Okay,
right?
depending
on a cash purchase
Right,
is
okay.
the one that it really works with.
Okay.
The net out of pocket after that Illinois Shines program would be anywhere between 13 and 18,000.
Okay.
So a significant amount of money.
Knocks a few bucks off.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you don't get that, you're still at the 22,000.
Right.
You have no monthly payment on that because you bought it outright.
Right.
The total that you would have paid over that 25-year lifespan would be anywhere
Your initial
between
out-of-pocket.
13 and 22, whatever your initial out of pocket was.
Yeah.
You own those panels after
Correct.
25 years. There's no lien on your roof. There's no
Ah,
nothing.
yeah.
We're getting there. We're getting there. And
You own your roof still.
but on a 25-year loan,
Correct.
which would be the most common one.
Most common way people did these.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. There was no real Illinois Shines direct thing, but it could.
No, they still qualify for Illinois Shines, but unless they pay the money toward their principal, which I think a lot of people just take the tax credit and don't actually write the check to their bank to pay off principal.
Right.
So that's why.
Yeah. Yeah, but still no net out of pocket, no ITC savings.
Right.
So you don't qualify for that, 4,000 to 9,000. And then, your monthly payment would be roughly $140 a month.
Mm-hmm.
The total paid over that 25 years is where it really gets crazy to me.
Right.
That's $42,300 on a
Right.
$22,000 system you're
Right.
paying over that 22
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
I mean, the math starts to get a little more
But you still
shaky.
own your panels.
Still
And
own your
this is
panels.
this is an option for a lot of people because
Yeah.
I mean, not everybody has 22,000 they want to spend on solar panels.
yeah,
you know?
that's true.
You're not going to cash out your IRA to put solar panels on your roof. That
No.
doesn't make much sense.
And especially most of these loans were at roughly a 6%.
Yeah.
If you kept that money in the stock market that
Correct.
entire time, you would have ended up ahead.
right.
So this option can make a lot of sense for
Yeah.
a lot of people. There's no rate escalator on this, so your
a
fixed
fixed rate,
payment, yep, $140 a month, and then if you sell your home, with the solar on it,
With that option, I'm sure there's either a personal guarantee or a lien on the house.
Right, right.
I don't know exactly, but I would imagine that would be the case.
Right. Actually, most of the time the loan transfers.
Oh, from one owner to the next.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can still
Or
sell
if you
your
sell
house.
your house, you pay off that loan,
Correct.
and
yeah.
then the solar panels will be owned by the new homeowner,
Correct.
or they can assume the note, assuming the bank will allow the transfer.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But then the third option,
The lease.
right?
Right.
The PPA lease. Obviously, there's no system cost, right?
Right.
And this is where it looks great, right? We'll put solar on your roof. You don't pay anything.
Yeah.
You know, you just buy electricity at a reduced rate from us.
Yeah.
So no system cost, no 30C tax credit, obviously, even though it's expired now. No Illinois shines. You know, you've got
The
zero.
company keeps the Illinois Shine money because
Right.
they're the actual ones buying the panels. So
Correct.
They apply for that and they get it,
Yeah.
not the homeowner.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. Your monthly payment, right, is anywhere between $80 and $120.
So a little less than financing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what you're actually paying for there is electricity, not the actual panels. You're
Right.
buying the electricity from the company that owns the panels on your roof
At a reduced rate.
at a reduced rate. Yeah.
Which is why the monthly payment goes down.
Exactly.
But you don't own the panels,
Yeah.
and they have a long-term lease on your roof.
Yep.
And
if you sell your house, right, the buyer must assume the lease.
Right.
Right. So if I'm looking at buying a house that has this PPA, I am looking at buying a house that I don't own the roof on.
yeah, technically,
Right.
that's best case scenario.
Yep.
Worst case scenario is you have a long-term lease on a roof that you're not able to even like get service on your panels should they break down.
Yep.
So now you're paying this lease, plus you're also paying the electric company for all the power that you're using.
Yep.
Because you're not getting use out of your solar panels.
Yeah.
Which we've seen firsthand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It can kill the sale of a house.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the red flags we want you to be aware of is that 30% ITC tax credit expired on 12/31/25. It's no longer available. But like the Illinois Shines program still has capacity as well. I believe there's also some battery backup money that can go along with that as well if you add that into there. So
Yeah,
there's pretty substantial incentives still
Yeah.
in Illinois. Indiana doesn't.
Yeah, that's true. The distributed generation is what
Yeah.
ComEd calls the program for the backup battery.
Okay.
And it is legitimately a very good program for people who have solar.
Right.
People who don't have solar are currently not eligible, but
And we still haven't heard any update on that.
no update.
Yeah, ComEd was supposed to maybe make an announcement about opening that program up to more people, but that was rumored earlier this year. It hasn't happened yet. So
Right.
I would imagine it probably has to do with their solar budget and
Probably.
where they're at for spending.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I would assume.
So what they don't tell you when you're signing up for these long-term leases is there's a dealer fee. So your $22,000 loan, actually the finance company will pay the solar company $28,000 for that $22,000 loan, and the solar company pockets that $6,000.
Yep.
So every time they sell financing, they make an extra $6,000, which is why they pushed financing so hard.
Yep.
And that's why the guys went out there and they sold the financing package. Oh, look, you'll actually save money on a monthly basis, but they didn't disclose that at all, of
Right.
course. And that was a handshake deal between the solar companies and the banks.
Yep.
And now they're at each other's throats and suing each other.
Yep.
But yeah, that loan cost the finance company $28,000 with the difference in the financing fees. So Conrad, if someone calls you and says, I got a quote for 0 down, 0 first payment, and my bill will go down, what are the first 2 questions you're going to ask them?
Yeah, and this is a pretty common scenario where
yeah.
where somebody is getting this option, and justifiably they're looking, what's the catch?
Yeah,
Right. And
right.
there is a catch.
Yeah.
So the questions that I would ask to kind of weed out what's actually going on is, does the proposal include the 30% federal tax credit, right? Because there are still people going around quoting the federal tax credit
Yes.
that doesn't exist.
Correct.
So does it include that? If so, your numbers are all out of
Yeah,
whack.
shoo that guy out the door
Yeah.
and don't let him back in your house near your wife or kids.
Yeah.
Because they are dirty.
Yeah, exactly. The savings projection is inflated. It's not actually going to happen.
Correct. You're not
And
going to be able to take that deduction at the end of the
Yep.
year when you're expecting a nice, $8,000, $9,000 federal income tax
Yep.
credit. It will not be there.
Yeah. And then the second thing I would ask is, what's the total amount of the loan, right? How much are
Yeah.
you actually paying
Yeah.
for this? Because that's another thing. You're hiding behind $1 per month,
Right.
right? And you can pretty easily figure out what you're actually paying.
We see that all the time. I mean, that's not just solar.
Yeah.
Go buy a used car
Or a new car.
or a new car. What's the
Yeah.
payment? What's the payment? That's all people care about is what's the payment. They don't see what it's actually costing them.
Right.
And this is where a little bit of financial literacy might come into place. But find out, and they should disclose that. What is the total of this loan going to cost me over the 25-year period?
Right.
And if you're okay with it, then go for it.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what it boils down to. I mean,
Yeah.
it's no shame on anybody who doesn't have the cash in their pocket, but know what you're walking into before you sign on the bottom line, because
Right.
you're not going to be able to get out of that very easily.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that's important to figure out if it's one of those PPCs is, what's the rate escalator?
Right.
Is it going up by 1% every year, 5% every year?
Yeah.
That's super important to know, because, if they're saying $100 a month payment now, what if next year that's 120, the year after it's 160, year after 200? Like, the very important questions to understand.
So one of the big reasons why we decided to go ahead and do this podcast is because about 3 weeks ago,
3 to 4, yeah.
about 3 or 4 weeks ago, Freedom Forever, which was the second largest residential solar company in the United States,
Yeah.
filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection.
Yeah.
And we have had a lot of calls, not a ton, but a few calls,
few. Yeah.
of people who were caught in the middle of this whole fallout.
Yeah.
Freedom is not answering their phones.
Yep. If you call Freedom,
Yeah.
it will send you to like an automated response that says like, we filed for Chapter 11. You can still use your app. Okay, how does that help me with my halfway completed solar project?
So just walk me through. You actually went and talked with somebody last week who was caught in the middle of this, and because we're Tesla Powerwall installers, they found our name on the Tesla website, I
Yep.
think.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
walk me through that. What did it
So
look like?
this guy found our name on the Tesla website
Right.
because he has a solar project that is actually fully installed,
Okay.
but not commissioned.
Okay.
Right? So he's got solar panels on his roof, which, by the way, he also has a leak in his roof now that he is trying
I'm
to
sure
figure
Freedom
out.
is going to get right on it.
Yeah, exactly. He's also got 2 Tesla Powerwalls on the side of his house.
Okay.
And those aren't commissioned. He has a
Oh.
Tesla wall connector that the
What
charger.
what does it mean by not commissioned? Can you help me understand that?
Good question. I forget a lot of times
Yeah.
that I'm too in the weeds. But a power wall, right?
Yeah.
When you hook it up to all your electricity, right? And then like, okay, so what? Your power wall is hooked up to electricity. What does that actually mean for me?
Uh-huh.
Nothing until it's actually commissioned in the app. So the installer, and it has to be a certified installer, will go through a set of questions on a list from Tesla directly to answer, what is this hooked up to? How much power can it export? How much power can it import? Can it draw from the grid, or can it only draw from solar? A bunch of questions that have to be answered in order for the power walls to actually work.
Okay, so it was installed but not functioning.
Correct.
And it
Yeah.
will not function until it's commissioned.
Correct.
Okay. Were you able to commission him?
So we're going to set up a time for
Okay.
me to go over and commission it.
Yeah, because it's tied up in a lawsuit right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And
Unfortunately.
so he's got 2 power walls on the side of his house. Another larger to me issue is that, one, the roof leak,
Yeah.
but that's actually not the only way that water's getting into his house after this install.
Oh, gee.
The other way is because the Freedom, when they put the system in,
Yeah.
they didn't use the right fittings on
Okay.
the pipe from the gateway, is what Tesla calls it,
Okay.
back into the house.
They weren't
So
rain tight.
they weren't rain tight.
Aha.
So now when it rains, like really heavy rain, he will have a drip coming out of one of the pipes that go into his house.
So water and electricity don't usually.
Yeah.
You don't want them in the same pipe
Yeah, exactly.
unless it's underground.
Yep.
That's a whole nother story.
Yeah. But no, so he's got a gateway that's not functioning correctly,
Okay.
2 power walls that aren't functioning correctly, 1 wall connector that's not functioning correctly, a leak in his roof, making payments on a solar system that he doesn't
even
have
use.
functioning.
Can't
Yeah.
even use.
And it's all
Wow.
completely tied up in court. He had a lawyer draft an email that was basically a non-compliance email.
Right.
And in the contract he signed with Freedom, there was a 10-day cure, right?
Okay.
Which essentially what that means is when he brings an issue to their attention,
Yes.
they have 10 days to fix it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can poke holes in that contract from
Right.
there. So he had a lawyer draw that up and send it to him that, their 10-day cure period wasn't met. But that doesn't help him now.
No, it doesn't. And he would have to try and sue a company that's in bankruptcy
Right.
with thousands of other lawsuits, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
And he's going to be right at the bottom of the list to get paid.
Right. Did he finance it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got
So he's got a
loan.
lien on his house
Yeah.
from a company that did work and and that he can't use.
Yeah.
And that's very sad.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on with a lot of the Freedom customers right now. They lost their warranty.
Yeah.
I think from what I've heard, they're attempting to restructure somehow.
Mm-hmm.
But in the meantime, there's absolutely no customer service. There is no way for them to get a hold of Freedom.
Now, here's another interesting thing. The Tesla Powerwalls, right?
Yeah.
Tesla Powerwall has an amazing warranty. It's
Okay.
a 10-year unlimited cycle warranty
Right.
that is contingent on you being connected to the internet, right? And they give you 30 days of not being connected to the internet before that warranty coverage goes away.
Oh no.
Yeah. Now,
So all these Freedom installs that included a Powerwall
yeah,
that were not commissioned.
yeah.
Oh man.
Now, I'm talking with Tesla on a case-by-case basis to
Yeah.
say, hey, this is the situation this guy was left in.
Yeah.
He didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
Is there anything we can do for this guy
Okay.
to get him his warranty
Has
coverage
Tesla
back?
been helpful?
Tesla's been very helpful.
Yeah.
They basically said to me, like, go get it commissioned
Mm-hmm.
and we'll escalate it in our internal team to see
Okay.
what we can do for him.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
they don't like the situation
Oh,
any more than
no.
we do.
No.
They don't want the bad reputation.
Yeah, and that bankruptcy, I think it was between 500 million and $1 billion bankruptcy.
Yep.
Which left Mosaic, who is the financer on most of those deals, it left Mosaic in a horrible spot.
Oh, yeah.
Because Mosaic had paid out on a lot of those installs, even though they hadn't been commissioned or fully installed yet.
Yep.
So there's a lot of unpacking to do, and it's likely going to take years before there's
minimum.
any resolution at all.
Yeah.
And that's really sad.
Yeah.
And I think some of the attorney generals are getting involved.
Oh, yeah.
I know Texas AG was involved in one of them. So there are consumer agencies out there that are working hard to get some resolution for people who paid thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
But I think one of the main problems that's coming up for the homeowners is that Mosaic lien
Right.
that's sitting on the houses now.
Yeah.
So Freedom, like I said, use Mosaic to finance their terms, And when the Freedom rep signed the customer up, Mosaic gave the money to Freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom has a lot of vendors who weren't paid.
Yeah.
Their installers weren't getting paid. And there's a lot of reports of installers who just walked off with half of an install done, maybe none of an install done.
Right.
And there's that money's gone. We don't know where it is.
And ultimately, in my opinion at least, that's not on the installer. Like they shouldn't be.
I'm gonna differ with you on that.
Okay.
Because a lot of the installers were taking on this work and they weren't licensed in the state in which they were working in.
Okay. Yeah.
So I while they're probably not bad individual people,
Yeah.
they were doing the customer a disservice. They were not providing value to the customer for what they were doing.
Yeah.
So that in and of itself is a major red flag. And that's where I take the side of the homeowner on this. And we've seen enough really poorly installed.
Oh, yeah.
We've seen house fires that have come from poorly installed solar, connectors that weren't installed properly, gateways that haven't been installed properly, and they've left a trail of bodies, and it's really damaged the whole solar industry.
Oh, yeah.
It's really, people are now, they're afraid to get solar,
Right.
And that's made it hard for the guys who are reputable that are doing solar.
Yeah.
So, and Freedom wasn't the only major U.S. company to file bankruptcy. I mean, we can go back to 2022, Pink Energy, one of the large, I think they were the largest at the time.
They were.
Yeah. Pink Energy, Power Home Solar is the company they went under.
Yeah.
And what that came up to, then that ended up as a fraud case.
Yeah.
Because of what they did.
Yeah.
Sonova Energy in 2025, Sun Power in 2024, Titan Solar in 2024, Sunlight Financial in 2023. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
For these, and I saw recently there's over 3,000 lawsuits filed by homeowners against solar companies for fraudulent tactics.
Yeah.
So that pattern, unfortunately, has permeated the solar, install groups. I think that they really had a good product to sell, and if they would have just backed it up by a really high quality install and maybe some QC that went in on the front end, but they were just too busy grabbing at money,
right,
and not paying attention to the customer.
Yeah.
And that's where, like I said at the beginning of the episode, your local, state, regional, solar power company that has the customer's best interest in mind is the guy to go with.
Yeah.
The guy who's going to give you real numbers and tell you why you may not want to finance it, why you may want to pay cash, or not going after the long-term lease that you don't own your roof anymore. And there were just nefarious things that went on throughout the industry, and it really poisoned the waters for anybody who is doing it legitimately.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Conrad, for an Illinois homeowner sitting right now with Freedom System and a Mosaic lien, what are their options?
It's tough, but hopefully your system is working fine, right?
Yeah.
In that case, what you lost is the warranty and monitoring.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You're obviously, if you call them for a warranty thing, they're
not going to come
pick up
out.
the phone.
Yeah.
But you can still find one of those local guys that we've been
Yes.
talking about,
Right.
to come in and service your system.
Right.
Right. If you have an issue, it's not like they were using proprietary parts.
No.
All of their stuff is open, can be worked on, can be fixed.
Right.
But you did lose that warranty, and that's horrible. But
Yeah.
you luckily do have a system that's functioning.
And like your guy, I think you need to get a lawyer involved, and
Yeah.
you need to preserve your rights, especially if you have a lien on your house.
Oh yeah.
You need to get that ship righted, because you're going to have difficulty selling your house when it comes time for you to move if you've got that solar lien hanging on the property.
Yeah.
That's going to be a big issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And like my guy, you know, the second option is the system was never completed.
Right.
You've got issues. You've got a not completely functioning solar system. Maybe they never did the interconnection with ComEd or, you know, whatever utility
Yeah.
company.
Yeah.
And that is a big issue. You should get involved with the Illinois Attorney General or whatever Attorney General.
You need to protect your rights as the
Yeah.
homeowner, and you need to get a lawyer, and definitely because they file bankruptcy, and they open it up to a process where anybody who has a claim can file a claim against them.
Yeah.
So have your lawyer file a claim, and with that claim, you'll get in line for whatever bones are left.
Yeah.
But at least you might get something rather than nothing,
Yeah.
because that's a big problem.
Yeah. The other, you know, hopefully you don't have a lien on your house.
Yeah.
But in that case, again, get a lawyer. In this case, a real estate attorney would be the best option before, you know, if you're going to sell your house, definitely before listing the house.
Yeah.
Mosaic doesn't disappear, right? Even though Freedom is gone, they're
Yeah.
currently still in business. They still have responsibilities that come with that.
And they're gonna have to try and sort through a big hassle here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, one of the things we're gonna segue here into a little bit of a different story, but you know, one of the things that we get asked oftentimes when we're setting up in a new municipality, and as we've expanded further into Indiana, one of the first questions I get from the municipalities is, "Are you a solar installer?"
Yeah.
And yeah, that I have come to find that if you are a solar installer, you already go into the municipality with a black eye and a bloody nose. They do not want solar installers in their communities because they're typically from out of state. They typically don't do things properly. They've run into untold nightmares with their inspectors, unqualified installers. And municipalities absolutely can't stand solar electrical contractors.
Yeah. Well, it's because the people who work there live in the communities too.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they see their neighbor got screwed on a solar deal. They see all sorts of stuff like that. And like we talked about earlier, it left a bad taste in everybody's mouth.
The other thing that the solar companies were doing early, and I'm sure they're still doing it today, but they're trying to skirt around the permit process.
Right.
They'll get a remodeling permit, or they'll get a permit for, you know, something other than actual solar panel installs, just to have a permit in the window.
Yeah.
And then they get caught on the final inspection. You don't get the occupancy permit that you need. So they're calling it home improvement or something like that. And where you actually tie into the electrical panel, I mean, you need a licensed electrician
Oh, yeah.
to do that. It's required.
Absolutely. It's required, and like there are some things that are required that are like, you know, you could, you couldn't. This is like really important.
Yeah, this catch your house on fire.
Right.
Kind of thing.
You're back feeding electricity back to the panel.
Right.
That's big. That's not something that should be done
Yep.
by anybody but a very qualified
And
contractor.
the very qualified contractors know about emergency shutdown systems
Yep.
for the fire departments and
Yep.
things like that. Whereas you have a sales guy knocking on your door. They don't know any of the code.
No.
They don't know anything about the installation. They're like, oh yeah, hey, it meets the requirements. You have an electric bill. Now let's sign you up for financing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So out of state crews, we've seen a lot of issues with out of state crews, and that's the same with anything that like goes viral. You know,
Oh,
you'll
yeah.
see something happen, and all of a sudden, all these things are popping up, and they're all out of state crews. Nobody's licensed. Nobody knows what they're doing. It's really bad.
One of the interesting things I noticed a couple of years ago, like on my social media feeds, is they would literally run ads for salespeople.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like the, you know, teenager looking to make some extra cash
Yeah.
this summer,
Yeah.
come do solar sales. You know, go knock door to door.
Yeah.
And I mean that's where some of the problems stemmed.
And you have people out there like bidding solar installs, and they're not paying attention to like structural issues, or you know, just real issues that the local building department is going to be really concerned about.
Yeah.
And they'll spec something that doesn't belong there just to get the sale.
Right.
You know, to get that commission check, and Yeah, it was kind of like a free for all there. It was
Yeah.
the Wild West for a while with those solar companies.
Yeah.
And even now, I mean, we've seen them. You know, some of the solar companies have put a little more effort into like educating their people and getting them licensed and things like that. I've seen an improved market there,
Yeah.
but these are also the guys who got caught, you know, doing it 40 times, and
Right.
they finally decided, oh, maybe we should get some qualified people involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From your experience on the electrical side, what's the most common mistake solar installers make that a licensed electrician would never make?
You know, it's probably not a fair question to ask me because I'm not in the field a lot, but what I've heard from people in the field is undersized wires feeding.
Yeah.
That seems to be one of the major issues, either on the DC or the AC side, either one of those.
Now-
The bonding and grounding is just atrocious.
Yeah.
They don't interconnect their bonding, and yeah, that's a big issue.
I've seen a lot of solar installs in the field.
Okay.
Because there's a pretty high overlap between people who drive EVs and people who have solar. And
Sure.
so I've seen hundreds of them.
Yeah,
Absolutely, the undersized wire is a big issue.
yeah,
The other thing is improper panel, right?
okay,
A lot of times you'll have a panel that's rated for 100 amps, right?
uh-huh,
And you'll have a 70 amp breaker back feeding into that panel.
okay,
Now, the rule from the NEC is, to make a short story of it, is that you can't do that on a 100 amp panel.
okay,
You have to have a 225 amp bus bar
Correct.
in the panel in order to make that right.
correct.
What it'll do is it'll eventually burn out the bus bars on that panel.
Yeah, because the bus bars aren't rated to carry that kind of current.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And then improper fittings. I see that all the time. Your pipe is outside.
use rain tight fittings.
Use
please.
rain tight fittings, and a lot of them don't.
Yeah. You know, some of the things like before you engage a solar contractor, ask them who's going to pull the permit.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the real, that's where the, you know, rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
Who's the guy who's pulling the permit? Who's the guy doing the install? If your guy who's pulling the permit isn't doing the install, that's not who you want.
Yeah.
You want the company that pulls the permit doing the install.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that ties back to, we've talked about that in the past, where people will ask us on occasion, like,
Yeah.
hey, can you pull this permit for me?
Yeah.
And no.
Nope. Sorry.
Yeah.
We'll pull the permit if we're doing the work, and
Yeah.
since we don't do solar, we're not gonna even get involved.
Yeah.
So there's very different deals if you look at Illinois versus Indiana, and you know some of the incentives are different as well. Interconnectivity is a little bit different.
Yeah.
So for our listeners who are in the Illinois and Indiana markets, this is kind of for you. Illinois is absolutely more solar friendly.
100%.
Illinois has net metering,
Yep.
which I know, you know, along with their hourly pricing program, net metering has your ComEd credits your solar back at real energy rates. It's
Yep.
not discounted.
Right.
The Illinois Shines program, which is the renewable energy credits for installing the panels, that comes into play, and sometimes $5,000 to $10,000 off the system. I mean, it's significant.
Yeah.
And then you know the regular state tax credit comes
Right.
into play as well. You know, where it's a 25% income tax credit on solar installs. They do have a $5,000 cap on that, but with the federal ITC expiring, it provides a little better incentive for Illinois people to continue to go solar. And I know Illinois has a pretty strong green energy mandate.
They really do. I mean, right from the legislation down to the utility companies' actions.
Yeah.
They've been pretty pro solar.
They absolutely support green energy very, very well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been pretty cool. Indiana is kind of
Another
the
story.
flip side.
They actually had net metering.
Yeah, up until 2022, right?
Yeah, where they eliminated it.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure why, but instead of getting the full credit for the excess power sent to the grid, now they only give you 3 to 6 cents a kilowatt hour, which drastically reduces any overproduction so you won't size your solar panels more than what you need.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be feeding back the grid, because
Right.
it's actually costing you money to do that. You're donating to other people's pockets by overproduction.
Yeah.
Illinois has a well-designed solar system. You got a 7 to 9 year payback time.
Yeah.
That's what they're designed in order to do. In Indiana, it could take twice as long.
Right.
Yeah.
For the same system, right?
Exact same system,
Yeah.
just because of how the rebates are set up and how the net metering occurs, and it's just it seems like it's discouraged almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
absolutely. I mean, Indiana hasn't been nearly as for solar, just on the legislative side.
Yeah.
Which is where, I mean, the utility company likes money, right?
Sure.
That's what they're going for.
Yeah.
So unless there's a mandate that says you have to do this, this, and this to support whatever, then they're going to do whatever puts more money in their pocket.
It would make sense, though, especially in the era of data centers and huge power consumption properties that are coming online, to actually pay people fairly for their solar panels. And we see that going on in Illinois,
Right.
But not in Indiana. So, Illinois, if you look at utility grids and maps, they actually produce more than they use electrically.
Mm-hmm.
So we sell to neighboring states, and that's actually unique.
Yeah.
Because most states are either net zero or importers.
Right.
So we're one of the few that exports. But it's also due to our power policies that allow us to have that kind of domination in production.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So solar salespeople, boo.
Largely, yeah. Your big national companies, largely solar salespeople, boo. I've run into a couple of really good ones throughout the years.
And we have a couple people that we recommend. And so if you're really you're very interested in solar, we've got some people that we trust to give you a good quality assessment and not to rip you off on stupidity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're few and far between.
They are,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
It was not easy to find those couple of really good people that I could honestly recommend to people.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we have them, and I'm
Yeah.
glad for our customers that, are looking for solar, and
Yeah.
we can give that away as a resource.
Yeah. And we're kind of like, we've got a 400,000 square foot facility that we take care of, that they're actually they're in the process of putting on a new roof and then leasing out the roof for solar panels now.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. They've got a huge facility, and it makes sense to put power back into the grid over there. So they can produce way more than they consume.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. All right, residential side. What to actually ask before you sign anything? You don't want to sign on the dotted line before you answer these questions. So Conrad, where are we?
The first one would be, what is the total amount I will pay over the life of this contract?
Yep.
Right? That's
Every
such a
penny
simple
up front.
question.
Yeah.
I mean, same thing you should be asking with anything that you're paying monthly on.
Yep.
What am I going to pay?
What's the total
life?
out of pocket?
Yep.
I'm gonna back off, because I had a guy who worked for me years ago, and he came in and he bought a new truck and he was all excited, and I said, hey, how much did you pay? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know?
Yeah.
He said, well, they kept my payment the same. Like, but dude, you don't know how much you paid for the car, but they kept your payment the same. Well, it was about 3 years later, he wanted to trade it in on another truck. And
Negative
he's
equity?
like, oh, he had like 11,000 in negative equity in the truck,
Oh.
and he couldn't get rid of it.
Yeah.
So, and he's like, and the truck was, I mean, obviously not worth anywhere near what he owed on it.
Right.
So the same thing with solar panels, man.
Yeah.
Know what you're getting into before you commit to that long-term loan.
Yeah. Who is the licensed electrician of record on this job, right?
Okay.
When we submit a permit, every
Yeah.
time it asks who is the electrician
Yeah.
on record.
Who's the supervising electrician typically? Yeah.
Right, yeah. And that should be a very straightforward answer for
Yep.
a company to answer.
Yep.
Yep, this guy is
And
our...
As a supervising electrician, you have all the responsibility of making sure that installation is compliant.
Yep.
And if the supervising electrician is never on the job, I mean, that's okay, but you have to have people that you've trained and you trust in order to do that work.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the liability is on you at the end of the
Correct.
day.
Yeah.
If you're the supervising electrician, you're responsible for how that job goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things unique about Eco Energy, and I'll plug us right now,
Yeah.
about that is we take pride in getting all of our techs licensed. So everybody who's been with us for a minimum of 2 years is licensed.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
and nobody does that. You know,
No.
everybody's shocked at like how many actual electricians we have. We have a ton.
Right.
And that's because we help them out. We want them to be trained electricians. We
Yeah.
want them to know what they're doing. We
Yeah.
want, it's a better value to our customer by having a licensed guy out on the job, and they know how to use a code book and they can look things up. I mean, selfishly, I get a whole lot less phone calls
Yeah.
from guys out in the field going, "Hey, what size wire do I need for this?" or "What size breaker do I need for that?"
Yeah.
Because you have guys who know, or how to bond this, how to ground that.
And our customers can tell. I was
Man.
texting a customer today. Literally just, I had to give them a receipt, and I was asking how the job went.
Yeah.
And they went out of their way to mention to me like how knowledgeable our crew was.
Yeah.
And that's as a direct result of
Yeah.
the type of training that we try and do.
And we're so proactive in this stuff. We've actually worked with local county here, and we've got our Department of Labor certification
Yeah.
for our apprenticeship program. So we're actually like official with the State Department.
Yeah.
We have a proper training, and they're happy with our program. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Anyway, so who's the electrician on record for the
Yeah.
job? Who's going to be the guy signing off?
Yeah.
All right. Sorry to derail you.
No, that was good. And then the other one is, how long has your company been operating? Can you show me? Well, I don't know that I would ask about like financials or anything, but do you have installs in the area?
Right.
Even that
Give
I
me
could go
3
see?
references for
Right.
people who have you done work for in the area.
Yeah.
Because I want to talk to them and I want to see how happy they are.
Yeah.
It's no different than hiring a kitchen remodeler or anything else.
Yeah.
We provide references all the time for people. In fact,
Yeah.
we got one today from a super huge customer asking for referrals. So
Yeah.
don't be afraid to ask. And if they can't give you a referral, don't give them your job.
Yeah.
Pretty simple.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other one would be, do I own the panels? Right?
Yeah.
Gigantic question. Do I own the panels? Do I retain ownership of the roof?
Right.
If it's a lease, what happens if your company is sold or files for bankruptcy?
Correct.
And get that stuff in writing from them.
Yep.
Because if anything were to go down, you got to have.
You need it in writing. Yeah.
Exactly. What's the production guarantee? If they're showing you projections on how much your solar is going to generate,
Right.
What realistic guarantees can you give me?
Well, we can't guarantee how much sunshine you'll have.
Right.
You'll probably get a runaround on that one.
Yeah. And honestly, like I do some financial modeling myself.
Yeah.
I can't guarantee those numbers either.
Right.
I do my best to make sure they're as accurate as I can do.
Yeah, and you should have some baseline in which you can draw from. We've got 25 other customers in this general area, and here's what their production rates are.
Exactly. And that's where the references comes in.
Correct.
Okay, let me go talk to these people.
And if you have a reputable guy, he's going to be able to provide that for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you're in Indiana, you got to ask them about net metering,
Yes.
right? What net metering or credit rate are you using in your projections? Because
Yes.
there are still companies going around out there using like Illinois era rates that haven't been active in Indiana since 2022.
Right. And much to the chagrin of the whole solar industry, it's just part of the shenanigans that go on that have led to their demise, ultimately.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Is your company enrolled in the Illinois Shines or Adjustable Block program, and are you passing those savings to me?
Correct.
Super important. Just make sure that all your ducks are in a row with it.
Yeah, make sure you're collecting the rebate money instead of the company collecting it.
And then here's one that I don't think we actually ended up talking about in this episode, but what does my roof assessment, the structural assessment, show?
Right.
A lot of solar panels will add anywhere between 2 and 4 pounds per square foot to your roof.
Right.
Now,
Additional load, dead load.
yep, exactly.
Yeah.
That you've got to have a structural engineer sign off on to make sure that your house is, capable of carrying that load.
Correct.
Super important. Make sure to ask that and have them show you the drawings.
Yes.
With the engineer's stamp.
Yes.
Because that
Get a copy of all that stuff. They
Yep.
should be able to furnish you a copy. If you're going to spend 22,000 or 30,000 or 60,000, they should be able to give you stamp drawings for what they're doing.
Yep, absolutely.
Ensure that the rapid shutdown as well.
Right.
Make sure that they've incorporated the rapid shutdown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, most cases they're required. Every once in a while they're not required. If they're not required, make them show you why.
Yeah. Okay.
Because that's on them. If
Yeah.
the code is, 2011 code and it's not required, then, for my money, I'd tell them to install it anyway.
Oh, yeah.
But if it's not required and you want to save the money, make them prove it to you that it's not required.
Correct. And if they can't answer that first question, how much is this going to cost me long
Yeah.
term? Walk away.
Yeah.
Shoo them
Right
right
away.
out the door.
Absolutely.
Solar can absolutely make sense for the right home in the right state with the right company
Yeah.
and the right deal structure. So you got to hit on all those,
Yeah.
right? The problem isn't solar. The problem is an industry that grew too fast, brought in too many bad actors, the slick sales guys, and built sales culture around obscuring the math.
Yeah.
They're not interested in giving you real numbers. They want to skew it in their favor, and unfortunately, that's cost them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really has. I mean, Illinois homeowners still have some really good incentives available.
Yeah.
The net metering is strong.
Yes.
The Illinois Shines program is great. There's the state tax credit up to $5,000.
Yep.
All of that really can help the financial case to make sense.
Just make sure you know what you're signing.
Yeah,
That's ultimately what
Absolutely.
it boils down to.
it really is.
Well, we don't install solar,
Yep.
but we can help you find somebody if you're interested. Please reach out to us. We appreciate your time. And if I know we're late in the episode, but it really does help us if you like and subscribe. We're seeing a lot more traction in our videos now.
Yeah.
And thanks so much for watching. We appreciate you. See you next time.